I wanna show you how to use beef tallow. This stuff has become all the rage these days. I've seen so many new recipes and so many people talking about beef tallow. Now, we go through these phases in the culinary world and home cooking world all the time. Olive oil used to be the thing. Coconut oil had its time, had its day. This is a great culinary oil, and it has other uses around the house and, beauty regimens and skincare and all that. So coconut oil is a great one to have on hand in the kitchen. And then ghee. Ghee took hold for a little bit. It's a clarified butter. I've done a video on how to make clarified butter, which is basically, more or less homemade ghee, slightly different process. But ghee has become a popular fat to use at home as well. And we're adding to the list with beef tallow. Now, this is not a complicated ingredient. This is just a substitute for where you would use most other cooking oils. It can be a replacement for butter. It can be a replacement for just your normal cooking fat that you use in your skillets, your roasting, and other cooking methods. The tallow you can find in the store these days is pretty high quality. This is a grass-fed, it's gluten-free, pretty good quality fat to use. Beef tallow's becoming a little bit more accessible in grocery store these days. Most grocery stores should carry it. You can find beef tallow where all the other oils are. So where the olive oil is, where the ghee is, where the coconut oil is, there should be a small section for beef tallow as well. There's not too many brands out there, so depending on where you live, you might have a limited selection right now, but beef tallow is becoming more and more popular. Places like Costco or Sam's Club are starting to carry it as well if you want to get it in a larger quantity for a better price. Now, I will say beef tallow, you want to use sparingly. You actually don't even need to use a lot of it because it can be quite expensive depending on where you're shopping, where you're getting it from, and the volume you're getting it in. This jar wasn't too expensive, probably on par with a high-end olive oil, but you won't use a ton of it all at once. I am gonna do some frying with it, so you will need a lot of it for cases like that. So I'm just chopping up some just simple mirepoix ingredients, just to do a little saute, maybe a base for a soup. Beef tallow can really take the place of your regular cooking oil in just about any scenario. It's gonna be really great for roasting in the oven if you wanna do some roasted vegetables. The cool thing about beef tallow is it has a very beefy flavor. It's not gonna make everything you cook taste like a steak or like a hamburger, but it does have a unique flavor. And the one thing I will warn you about, if you haven't cooked with it before, it has a very strong aroma. So depending on the type of beef tallow you get, you'll definitely be able to smell it. Especially when I'm doing anything like frying. I like to have a lot of circulation, a lot of ventilation. I crack the door behind me, I can smell the oil, so don't want the whole house to smell like beef tallow. So be sure to have a little bit of extra circulation, or at least turn that vent on above your range. What this reminds me of, I was just recently making bone broth. So there's a lot of beef fats and oils in the bones that you use for bone broth, and you usually skim that oil off the top, and that's exactly what beef tallow is. It is just the rendered fat from beef meat, beef bones. The reason why it's catching hold is a lot of people are moving away from seed oils from their cooking, so beef tallow is an option for that. It also has a very high smoke point, around 420 degrees. So anytime you're cooking, roasting, grilling, you really want a high temperature oil, a high temperature fat that won't break down and go rancid while you're cooking with it. So beef tallow is a great option because it's super versatile with that high smoke point. So I'd reach for that beef tallow anytime you're making a recipe that includes beef. It's just gonna reinforce that flavor in the background. A lot of people are now using it for steaks. Usually there's that process of basting a steak in like a really hot skillet with butter. You can do that with beef tallow. Butter has a tendency to burn, especially if it's not clarified butter or something like ghee. So your beef tallow is gonna be a great replacement for that, and even giving a unique characteristic and flavor to vegetables. It's not gonna be for everybody, but if you wanna try it out, if you're looking for other options for fats when it comes to cooking, beef tallow might be for you. So I do wanna give this tallow a taste test, and one of the ways that people enjoy it is just as a butter replacement, so you could put it on toast. One thing that I have seen is using tallow as that bulletproof coffee replacement, so you usually put like a grass-fed butter in your coffee. People are doing this with tallow, so tallow in your coffee for that little morning boost of fats, I guess. But this is one way you can enjoy tallow, just on some toast. That's actually really good. The beef tallow flavor is like very, very subtle. And you know what would be good on this? Some flaky sea salt. This is very good. Butter is great, but the beef tallow flavor, it's not super beefy. It's just very like unique. There's a depth of flavor there. There's a richness. I didn't quite know what I wanted to make. I was like, I can just fry up an egg. Usually when I'm testing something out, I'm just like, let me just fry an egg. You can use the beef tallow for that morning scramble, that morning egg, but I wanted to try some beef tallow fries, just some simple potatoes. Heard of duck fat fries at some, high-end gastro pubs, but beef tallow fries are another way you can use this stuff up. And because of its high smoke point, depending on what you're frying in it, you can actually just strain it out and reuse the oil if it's still good, if it's not, like cloudy and too dirty. But people are frying chicken in beef tallow, all sorts of recipes. Want to make sure I get a lot of that moisture out of there. If you're ever making fries, go ahead and soak them in water. You want to get rid of a lot of that starch first. And since we're frying, you definitely want to make sure to get rid of any excess moisture. That's just gonna pop and crackle when you introduce it to the hot fat. Check my temp. Want to be somewhere around 325, 350. Can go ahead and add our first batch in. Don't want to overcrowd the oil. I am gonna do a double fry on these, so just one lower temp fry. Since that tallow has such a high smoke point, we can crank it up a little bit warmer later to crisp these up on the outside. This first fry is just to cook them through. Just making a little drain tray for these fries. Should open up a little burger shop. Look at me, my beef tallow fries. So I'm gonna do a first fry on this batch, get these out, let them cool slightly, get the other batch blanched in that oil, just cook them through, and then we'll crank the temperature up, give a second fry just to crisp them up on the outside. Traditional process for homemade French fries. You can cut them up. You can leave that skin on. I do that sometime. I peeled these, soak them in water. Be sure to rinse them a few times, get all that excess starch off, and then you can pat them dry with a clean kitchen towel or some paper towels, and then get them right into your beef tallow. Other interesting things people are using beef tallow for, it can be used in skincare regimens. I've heard a lot of people are using it on their face for moisture. You can also make candles out of these. I've heard of beef tallow candles, so that's interesting as well. So a lot of creative uses for beef tallow out there. Tallow can also be used to season your cast iron skillets. Because of that high smoke point again, it's gonna be great for that job as well. I was thinking tallow for, taco night when you're making your taco meat, just use a little bit of beef tallow. Whenever you're using ground meat or steak or anything like that, it'll be a good addition to reinforce that flavor in your dish. Taking these out. Just get these last few in there. I was gonna do 4 potatoes. I did 2. Good thing. Would have been here making French fries all day. Since the tallow can be a little expensive, wouldn't recommend doing your, deep frying in it, using a whole volume of it to fry. I'm using kind of like a shallow skillet here, not really much beef tallow in there. Maybe do it for a special occasion, but definitely you can use it in replace of your normal cooking oil, especially if you're only using it like a tablespoon at a time for a normal recipe. Smells good. These fries do smell good. And if you can't find beef tallow, you can actually make your own. You'll just need beef trimmings, the fat trimmings off of maybe a steak, a huge brisket or something like that. You just slowly melt that down, and then you'll skim off just the oil, leave all the other bits at the bottom. You'll just skim off the oil and you'll have your own beef tallow. Here we are, tallow time. First, blanch these fries. They're a little soft, just kind of barely cooked through. I'm gonna just boost that heat a little bit, get that temperature up, maybe 370, and then I'm just gonna throw these back in to crisp up and finish cooking. This is the technique that a lot of restaurants, fast food places, even McDonald's uses. So they're already par-cooked, pre-cooked potatoes, and then the second fry is just to heat them through and crisp them up on the outside. So you do the same thing at home. This is a great way to prep. Maybe you're hosting like a party, a burger night, something like that. Do your fries, if you're making homemade fries, do it ahead of time. You can do it the night before or something like that. And then when you're ready to cook them, you just fry them up again. They're hot and fresh. You've already done the first cook. You don't have to spend the time doing that. So it's something you can do in advance. Oh, these are looking real French fry-y. I'm gonna let them go a little bit longer. I like a crispy fry. You can also coat these in a little beef tallow and throw them on a sheet pan in the oven and just make some oven fries. You don't even need to deal with deep frying them. That might be a better application. You could do even like some wedges, some thicker cut potatoes, and just oven fry them, oven roast them. Oh, nice and brown and crispy. Look at these French fries. is. Just adding some of that same salt to these. I love it when places, you get the big bowl, you maybe put some garlic, some parsley in there, some flaky sea salt, toss it around, get a ton of flavor on these things. But look at that difference. We got our crispy, crunchy French fries, and then that's what they used to be. Just beige and boring. I'm gonna try this one. This one looks really good. Y'all, add some potatoey goodness. Super fluffy on the inside. That's why you want to soak them, get all that starch out. That first fry to cook them through, the second fry to make them nice and crispy on the outside. That's the way to make a French fry. There is a subtle, maybe savoriness from that beef flavor, but they don't taste greasy. They don't taste like the burger itself. Really delicate flavor. It's really good. Another quick tip when it comes to homemade French fries, whether you're using beef tallow or not, let those fries go a little extra longer. Get them nice and dark and crispy. Keep an eye on that heat. You don't want your oil too hot where it will just instantly burn them on the outside. But at about 350, 375, get them really deep golden. They'll have better texture on the outside and a lot of fluff on the inside. As you can see, when you get your temperatures right, you're not gonna have a lot of smoke. You're not gonna have a lot of splatter. So definitely have a thermometer like this on hand attached to your pot, or I just keep a little instant read digital thermometer nearby so I can keep checking the temperature. This time I'm bringing the pot to the tray. See, I definitely let these get golden. This batch is probably a little crispier. Out of the hot tub. And you definitely want to salt them right when they come out. The hot oil on the outside will help that salt stick and melt in. Homemade French fries, beef tallow, there's so many things you can do with this new culinary trend.